The October morning arrived at Seabreeze Resort with the kind of golden light that made everything look like a luxury brochure come to life. Maya Torres stood behind the mahogany reception desk, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she finalized the check-in manifest for the day's VIP arrivals. The resort buzzed with its usual elegant chaos, bellhops wheeling luggage across marble floors, the distant clink of silverware from the breakfast terrace, the soft jazz playing through hidden speakers. "Maya, sweetheart, are we ready for the Ashford party?" Thomas Whitmore appeared beside her, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile warm despite the pressure of hosting one of the year's most important events. "Everything's set, Thomas," Maya assured him, pulling up the reservation details. "Presidential suite for Mr. Ashford, ocean view suites for his executive team on the same floor. I've coordinated with housekeeping, the concierge has his preferences on file, and the conference rooms are being set up as we speak." Thomas squeezed her shoulder affectionately. "What would I do without you?" "Probably hire 3 people to replace me," Maya teased, earning a laugh from her godfather. She'd been working at Seabreeze since graduating from hospitality management school 3 years ago. Thomas had offered her a management position immediately, but Maya insisted on starting at the front desk. She wanted to earn respect through competence, not nepotism. Most staff didn't even know about their relationship. Thomas was simply Mr. Whitmore during business hours. "I mean it," Thomas said, his tone turning serious. "You have a gift for this work, Maya. The way you remember guests' names, their preferences, how you make everyone feel valued, that's not something you can teach." Maya felt warmth bloom in her chest. Thomas had been her rock since her parents died in a car accident when she was 16. He'd been her father's college roommate and best friend, and he'd stepped into the guardian role without hesitation, paying for her education, supporting her dreams, treating her like the daughter he'd never had. "Speaking of making people feel valued," she said, glancing at her watch, "the Ashford group should arrive within the hour. I should probably brace myself. I've heard the stories." Thomas's expression shifted, something between amusement and concern crossing his features. "Dominic can be intense, but there's more to him than the reputation suggests. We go back 20 years. I watched him build Ashford Tech from nothing. He's brilliant, driven, but, Maya prompted. "Lonely," Thomas finished quietly, though he'd never admit it. "Just try not to take anything personally today, all right?" Maya straightened her blazer, a tailored navy piece that complemented her dark hair, styled in a professional bun. "Thomas, I've handled demanding guests before. I'll be fine." She had no idea how wrong she was. 53 minutes later, 3 black SUVs pulled up to the resort's grand entrance. Maya watched through the tall windows as a team of impeccably dressed executives emerged, but her attention locked on the man stepping out of the middle vehicle. Dominic Ashford was 34 years old and looked like he'd been sculpted from ice and ambition. Tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled with precise casualness, sharp jawline, and eyes the color of winter storms. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly salary, tailored so perfectly it seemed like armor. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. Or if he had, he'd simply bought whatever was being denied. Maya took a breath, fixed her professional smile in place, and prepared for check-in. The automatic doors whispered open, and Dominic strode through, his team trailing behind like satellites orbiting a cold sun. He didn't glance at the resort's stunning architecture, the cascading floral arrangements, or the ocean view visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. His attention remained fixed on his phone, thumbs moving rapidly across the screen. "Good morning and welcome to Seabreeze Resort," Maya greeted warmly as he approached the desk. "You must be Mr. Ashford. We're delighted to have you with us." Dominic didn't look up. "Reservation under Ashford, presidential suite. I need keys for my team as well. They should all be on the same floor." His voice was clipped, efficient, completely devoid of warmth. Maya maintained her smile. "Of course, Mr. Ashford. I have everything prepared for you. If I could just get a photo ID and credit card for incidentals. My assistant sent everything yesterday, he interrupted, still focused on his phone. It should already be in your system. Maya pulled up the file. Yes, I have the information, but for security purposes, we do need to verify identification in person. It'll just take one moment. Is Thomas here? Dominic finally looked up, and Maya felt the impact of those cold eyes assessing her with the same attention he might give a malfunctioning appliance. I need to speak with him about the conference room setup. Mr. Whitmore is overseeing preparations and will meet with you at 2 o'clock as scheduled, Maya replied, her professional mask firmly in place despite the dismissive tone. Now, if I could just see your... This is ridiculous, Dominic muttered, pulling out his wallet with visible irritation. He slapped his driver's license and a black credit card onto the counter with enough force to make them skid across the polished surface. Is there anyone else who can handle this? Someone who actually has authority to bypass unnecessary bureaucracy? Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she kept her voice level. I understand you're eager to get settled, Mr. Ashford. I'll have you checked in within 3 minutes. She processed the information with practiced efficiency, her fingers steady despite the anger simmering beneath her professional exterior. Behind Dominic, his team shifted uncomfortably, clearly accustomed to their boss's behavior, but not immune to the second-hand embarrassment. Your suite is ready, Maya said, sliding the keycards across the counter, along with his identification and credit card. You're in the presidential suite on the 12th floor, with ocean views and a private terrace. Your team is in suites 1203 through 1208. The welcome packet includes information about resort amenities, restaurant reservations, and... Just send it to my email, Dominic interrupted, pocketing his cards without a thank you. He turned to his team. Let's go. We have the investor call in 90 minutes, and I need to review the presentations. As the group moved toward the elevators, Maya heard one of the executives, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, whisper an apology. Sorry about that. He's under a lot of pressure. Maya nodded, but before she could respond, Dominic's voice cut through the lobby. Is there a problem, Jennifer? He stood by the elevator, hand holding the door, irritation radiating from every line of his body. No, sir. Just confirming the restaurant reservation for tonight. As they disappeared into the elevator, Maya released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her colleague, David, appeared from the back office, eyes wide. Was that really Dominic Ashford? The Dominic Ashford? Unfortunately, Maya muttered, then caught herself. Yes, that was him. I heard he once made a CEO cry during a board meeting, David said, leaning against the counter. Apparently, he's brilliant, but absolutely ruthless. They call him the Ice King in tech circles. How original, Maya said dryly. She glanced at the clock. I need to check on the conference room setup. Can you cover the desk? Sure thing. Try not to let him get to you. Guys like that think the world revolves around them. Maya nodded, but as she walked through the resort's elegant corridors toward the conference wing, she couldn't shake the encounter. She'd dealt with difficult guests before, celebrities who demanded impossible things, wealthy families who treated staff like furniture, corporate executives who barked orders. But something about Dominic Ashford's casual dismissiveness stung more than usual. Maybe it was the complete lack of eye contact, as if she wasn't worth looking at. Maybe it was the way he'd slapped his cards down, like she was wasting his precious time. Or maybe it was the stark contrast with Thomas, who treated every person with dignity regardless of their position. The conference rooms were perfect. Thomas had overseen the setup himself. Large windows overlooking the ocean, state-of-the-art presentation equipment, comfortable leather chairs arranged around a massive table. Fresh coffee, pastries, and fruit had been arranged on a side table. Everything was impeccable. There you are, Thomas said, emerging from the adjacent breakout room. How did check-in go? Maya hesitated. Thomas looked so hopeful, so eager for his protégé and goddaughter to get along. Fine, Mr. Ashford is settled in his suite. Thomas studied her face, reading the truth beneath the diplomatic answer. He was rude. He was efficient, Maya offered. Maya, she sighed. Okay, yes, he was rude. But it's fine, Thomas. I've handled worse. No, it's not fine, Thomas said firmly. I'll speak with him. Please don't, Maya said quickly. I don't want him knowing we're related. I don't want special treatment or to be seen as someone who runs to the owner every time a guest is difficult. I can handle Dominic Ashford. Thomas looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. All right. But if he crosses a line, then I'll handle it, Maya assured him. Now don't you have a resort to run? Thomas smiled, kissed her forehead, and headed back toward the main building. Maya took one last look around the conference room, ensuring everything was perfect, then made her way back to the lobby. The afternoon passed in a blur of check-ins, guest requests, and coordination with various departments. Maya loved the controlled chaos of her job, the satisfaction of solving problems and making people's stays memorable. She'd just finished helping an elderly couple arrange a surprise anniversary dinner when the elevator dinged. Dominic emerged, now dressed in business casual, dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his forearms. He was on his phone again, naturally, but this time he was actually speaking. I don't care about their concerns, Richard. We're not budging on the acquisition price. They either accept our offer or we walk. We have 3 other targets we can pursue instead. He paused, listening. No counter-offers. This is business, not a negotiation. Call me when they accept. He ended the call and finally seemed to notice his surroundings. His gaze swept the lobby, pausing briefly on Maya before moving on, as if she were just part of the furniture. Then Thomas appeared at the top of the grand staircase. The staircase was one of Seabreeze's signature features, a sweeping marble masterpiece that curved elegantly down to the main lobby, flanked by ornate railings and crystal chandeliers. Thomas descended with his characteristic grace, and behind him, carrying a leather portfolio, was Maya. She'd been in Thomas's office going over the schedule for tomorrow's activities when he'd asked her to bring the investor retreat itinerary down to the conference room. They'd taken the scenic route specifically so Thomas could point out some architectural features he was considering for the resort's expansion, features he wanted Maya's opinion on, since she'd be managing properties of her own someday. Maya didn't notice Dominic at first. She was laughing at something Thomas had said. Her professional demeanor relaxed in her godfather's presence, her smile genuine and unguarded. But Dominic noticed her. He stood frozen by the elevator, watching the receptionist, the insignificant desk clerk who'd wasted his time with bureaucratic nonsense, descending the grand staircase alongside Thomas Whitmore like they were old friends. No, not just friends. There was an ease between them, a familiarity that spoke of deep connection. Thomas saw Dominic and smiled broadly. Dominic, perfect timing. I was just coming to find you. He reached the bottom of the staircase, Maya beside him. I wanted to go over tomorrow's schedule. Dominic's eyes moved between Thomas and Maya, his expression unreadable. Of course. Should we speak in your office? The conference room is fine, Thomas said. Then, almost as an afterthought, have you met Maya? She's been instrumental in coordinating your retreat. Maya Torres. This is Dominic Ashford. Maya extended her hand, her professional smile back in place. We met briefly during check-in, Mr. Ashford. I hope your suite is to your satisfaction. Dominic stared at her outstretched hand for a beat too long before shaking it. His grip was firm, brief, and completely impersonal. The suite is adequate. Thomas frowned slightly at the coldness of the response, but Maya simply nodded. Excellent. If you need anything at all during your stay, please don't hesitate to ask. Now, if you'll excuse me, I should get back to the desk. She handed the portfolio to Thomas, gave him a small smile, and walked back toward reception with her head high. Dominic watched her go, something uncomfortable twisting in his chest. The way Thomas had smiled at her, The way she'd called him by his first name with such easy affection, the portfolio she'd been carrying, suggesting she had access to high-level meetings and information. "Shall we?" Thomas gestured toward the conference room, his voice carrying a hint of coolness that hadn't been there before. As they walked, Dominic's mind raced. He'd dismissed her, called her procedures unnecessary bureaucracy, treated her like she was insignificant. And she'd been important enough to walk down the grand staircase with the resort owner, laughing like family. For the first time in years, Dominic Ashford felt something uncomfortably close to shame, but he pushed it down, buried it beneath layers of logic and pragmatism. She was still just a receptionist. The check-in had still been inefficient. His behavior might have been curt, but it wasn't wrong. He was here for business, to close the largest acquisition in his company's history, to prove to his board and investors that Ashford Tech was the future of the industry. A receptionist's feelings, however connected she might be to Thomas, weren't his concern. Except as Thomas began discussing the retreat schedule, Dominic found his attention drifting back to the lobby, to the desk where Maya Torres sat, helping guests with genuine warmth and competence. And he found himself wondering who exactly she was to Thomas Whitmore. The evening descended on Sea Breeze Resort with the kind of breathtaking sunset that made even the most jaded travelers pause. Maya stood at the hostess station of Tidewater, the resort's signature restaurant, reviewing the seating chart for the night. The Ashford party had a reservation for 8 o'clock, a private section with ocean views, naturally. She wasn't working the restaurant tonight. Her shift at the front desk had technically ended an hour ago. But Clarissa, the restaurant manager, had called in a panic when one of the servers fell ill, and Maya had volunteered to help. It was part of her philosophy. Understand every aspect of the operation. How could she run her own hotel someday if she didn't know how every department functioned? "You're a lifesaver," Clarissa said, adjusting Maya's name tag. "Table 12 is yours, the Ashford Group. I know they're demanding, but you've got the patience of a saint, or the stubbornness of a mule," Maya replied with a grin. "Don't worry, I've got this." She smoothed down her server's uniform, a crisp white blouse and black slacks, simple but elegant, and took a breath. She could do this. It was just serving dinner. She'd worked her way through college waitressing at a busy downtown bistro. This would be fine. At precisely 8 o'clock, Dominic arrived with his team of 6 executives. He'd changed into a navy suit, no tie, the top button of his shirt undone, the calculated casualness of someone who knew they looked good and didn't need to try hard. His team looked exhausted, like they'd been through a mental marathon. Maya approached with menus and her professional smile. "Good evening, Mr. Ashford. Your table is ready, if you'll follow me." Dominic's eyes widened fractionally when he recognized her. "You work here too?" "I'm helping out tonight," Maya said smoothly, leading them to the curved booth overlooking the ocean. The last rays of sunlight painted the water in shades of amber and rose. "We're a close team at Seabreeze. We help where needed." She distributed menus while the team settled in. Jennifer, the executive who'd apologized earlier, gave Maya a grateful smile. "This view is incredible." "It's one of our best tables," Maya agreed. "Can I start you off with drinks? We have an excellent wine list, and our sommelier is available for recommendations if you'd like." Dominic barely glanced at the menu. "Macallan 18 neat, and water, no ice." Of course, he drank expensive scotch. Maya noted it down and turned to the others, taking their orders with practiced efficiency. When she returned with the drinks, the group was deep in conversation about market projections and competitor analysis. "The problem," said a younger executive named Marcus, "is that Quantum Solutions won't go down without a fight. Their CEO is notoriously stubborn." "Then we make him an offer that makes fighting pointless," Dominic replied, swirling his scotch. "Everyone has a price, Marcus. It's just a matter of finding it." Maya set down the drinks and prepared to recite the specials, but Dominic continued without acknowledging her presence. "What about the regulatory concerns? Jennifer asked. The FTC has been scrutinizing tech acquisitions lately. Let them scrutinize, Dominic said. Our legal team has vetted everything. We're not breaking any laws. We're just better at this than everyone else. Maya cleared her throat softly. Excuse me, I have tonight's specials if you're ready. Give us 5 more minutes, Dominic said without looking at her, his attention fixed on his team. Maya nodded and stepped back, but she didn't leave. She'd learned long ago that hovering nearby, not intrusively but attentively, was the mark of good service. She could see other tables, ensure her section was running smoothly while remaining available when needed. From her position near the window, she couldn't help but overhear their conversation. Dominic was discussing the acquisition of a smaller tech company, dissecting its weaknesses with surgical precision. He spoke about market share and revenue streams, about leveraging weaknesses and eliminating redundancies. What about their employees? Jennifer asked quietly. Quantum has some brilliant engineers. We should try to retain the talent. We'll keep the essential personnel, Dominic replied. The rest are redundant. That's the reality of acquisition, Jennifer. You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. Those eggs are people, Jennifer said, and Maya heard the tension in her voice. Those eggs are line items on a balance sheet, Dominic corrected. I'm not running a charity. I'm running a business. Sentiment doesn't build empires. Maya felt her jaw tighten. She knew it was business. She understood that corporate acquisitions meant restructuring. But the casual way he dismissed human lives, reduced people to redundancies and line items, it grated against everything she believed about treating people with dignity. She approached the table again. Are you ready to order? This time, Dominic did look at her, and there was something calculating in his gaze, like he was reassessing her after seeing her with Thomas. The Chilean sea base, no modifications. The rest of the team ordered, and Maya headed to the kitchen with their requests. As she waited for the appetizers, Clarissa appeared beside her. How's the Ashford table? Demanding but manageable, Maya said, though I'm trying very hard not to pour his 18-year-old scotch over his head. Clarissa laughed. That bad? He's just so cold. Everything is a calculation. Everyone is a means to an end. Maya shook her head. Sorry, I shouldn't complain about guests. You're allowed to be human, Maya, Clarissa said gently. Just maintain the smile until they leave. Maya delivered the appetizers, seared scallops, oysters, calamari, and the team ate while continuing their relentless business discussion. She found herself fascinated despite her irritation. Dominic commanded the conversation with absolute authority, challenging assumptions, poking holes in arguments, pushing his team to think sharper and faster. He was brilliant. There was no denying it. The way he connected disparate pieces of information, identified patterns, predicted market movements, it was impressive, but it was also exhausting to witness. Even his team looked drained, like they were running a marathon while he barely broke a sweat. When she brought the entrees, Jennifer looked up at her with tired eyes. Thank you so much. This looks wonderful. My pleasure, Maya said warmly. If you need anything else, just let me know. Actually, Jennifer said, could we get a few minutes of peace from the business talk? She shot a pointed look at Dominic. Some of us would like to actually enjoy this beautiful setting. Dominic raised an eyebrow. We're here for a business retreat, Jennifer, not a vacation. We're here for both, Jennifer countered. Thomas specifically designed this retreat to include relaxation and team building, not just 72 hours of non-stop acquisition strategy. Maya seized the opportunity. If I may, Mr. Ashford, Seabreeze offers some excellent activities for team building. We have a private yacht for sunset cruises, guided hiking trails along the coast, even a cooking class with our executive chef. Many corporate groups find that stepping away from the conference room actually enhances productivity. Dominic fixed her with that cool gaze again. Are you a hospitality professional or a business consultant? The condescension in his tone was unmistakable. Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks, but she maintained her composure. I'm someone who's seen that balance leads to better outcomes. But of course, you're welcome to structure your retreat however you see fit. She turned to leave, but Dominic's voice stopped her. What's your relationship with Thomas Whitmore? The table went silent. Maya turned back slowly, her expression carefully neutral. I'm sorry. Earlier today, you were walking with him like you were familiar. You called him by his first name, so I'm curious. What exactly is your relationship with the resort owner? The question hung in the air, loaded with implications. Maya felt her pulse quicken, but she kept her voice steady. Mr. Whitmore and I have a professional relationship. I've worked here for 3 years and have earned his trust. Is there something specific you're concerned about? I'm concerned about conflicts of interest, Dominic said smoothly. If there's a personal relationship that affects business decisions, that's relevant information. Jennifer looked mortified. Dominic, that's inappropriate. It's fine, Maya interrupted, her eyes locked on Dominic's. Mr. Whitmore treats all his employees with respect and consideration. If that seems unusual to you, Mr. Ashford, perhaps you should examine your own management style. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have other tables to attend to. She walked away with as much dignity as she could muster, her hands trembling slightly. Behind her, she heard Jennifer hiss something at Dominic, but she couldn't make out the words over the pounding of her heart. In the kitchen, she took a moment to steady herself. What was wrong with that man? It was like he couldn't conceive of someone being kind without ulterior motives. Like respect and warmth were foreign concepts in his world of balance sheets and market share. Maya? Clarissa touched her arm. You okay? I'm fine, Maya lied. Just need a minute. She busied herself checking on her other tables, taking orders, delivering dishes, anything to avoid going back to Dominic's table. But eventually, inevitably, they needed dessert menus. When she approached, the atmosphere had shifted. The team was quieter, and Dominic was staring out at the ocean, his expression unreadable. Jennifer looked up at Maya with apologetic eyes. Could we see the dessert menu? Of course. Maya distributed the menus, acutely aware of Dominic's gaze following her movements. We have an excellent key lime tart, and our chocolate lava cake is a guest favorite. The chef also makes a seasonal pumpkin creme brulee that's exceptional. I'll have the creme brulee, Jennifer said, and perhaps a decaf cappuccino. Maya took the rest of the orders, noting that Dominic ordered nothing. When she returned with the desserts, he finally spoke. I'd like to apologize. Maya nearly dropped Jennifer's cappuccino. She set it down carefully and looked at Dominic, waiting. He seemed uncomfortable, like the words were physically difficult to produce. My question earlier was inappropriate. Your relationship with Mr. Whitmore is none of my business, and I shouldn't have implied otherwise. The apology was stiff, formal, clearly unfamiliar territory for him. But it was an apology, nonetheless. Thank you, Maya said quietly. I appreciate that. She moved to clear plates, but Dominic continued. For what it's worth, you were right. About balance. I sometimes forget that not everyone operates at the same pace I do. Jennifer nearly choked on her cappuccino. Marcus's eyes widened. Clearly, Dominic Ashford admitting he was wrong was a rare occurrence. We all have different working styles, Maya said diplomatically. The key is finding what works for your team. And what would you suggest? Dominic asked, and there was genuine curiosity in his voice now. If you were consulting on team building. Maya hesitated. Was he mocking her? Testing her? But his expression seemed sincere, and Jennifer was nodding encouragingly. Well, Maya began carefully, I'd suggest starting tomorrow with the sunrise yoga session on the beach. It's designed to clear minds and reduce stress. Then after your morning meetings, maybe the coastal hike. It's 3 miles, beautiful views, and physical activity often sparks creative thinking. Evening could be the cooking class, collaboration in a low-pressure environment. Dominic considered this, then looked at his team. Thoughts? I think it sounds perfect, Jennifer said immediately. Marcus nodded. Honestly, I could use the break from screens. The others murmured agreement, and Dominic turned back to Maya. All right, Sign us up for all three. I'll make the arrangements, Maya said, surprised. The yoga starts at 6:30, so it'll be an early morning. We're used to early mornings, Dominic replied. Then, almost as an afterthought, thank you for the recommendations. Maya nodded and finished clearing the table. As she walked back to the kitchen, she felt oddly off balance. Dominic Ashford had apologized, had taken her advice, had thanked her. Maybe there was more to the Ice King than met the eye. Later that night, after the Ashford party had left and Maya had finished her shift, she found Thomas in his office, reviewing the next day's schedule. "Come in, sweetheart," he called, when he saw her lingering in the doorway. "How was your evening?" Maya sank into the leather chair across from his desk. "Interesting. Dominic Ashford apologized to me." Thomas's eyebrows rose. "Did he now?" "He asked about my relationship with you," Maya admitted, implied there might be a conflict of interest. Then later, he apologized for being inappropriate. Thomas's expression darkened. "He had no right—" "It's okay," Maya interrupted. "He apologized, Thomas, and then he actually listened when I suggested some activities for his team, signed them up for yoga, hiking, and cooking classes." "Dominic signed up for yoga?" Thomas looked genuinely shocked, voluntarily. "Well, I recommended it," Maya said with a small smile. "But yes, he agreed, which is unexpected." Thomas studied her thoughtfully. "Dominic's had a hard road, Maya. He built his company from nothing, and along the way he learned that showing weakness, showing humanity, was dangerous. But underneath all that ice, there's a good person. He's just forgotten how to let people see it." "You care about him," Maya observed. "I do," Thomas admitted. "I watched him lose his parents in his 20s, throw himself into work to avoid grief, achieve incredible success at the cost of every meaningful relationship in his life. He's lonely, Maya, even if he won't admit it. And loneliness makes people hard." Maya thought about Dominic's cold efficiency, his casual dismissal of people as line items, his difficulty with basic human warmth. Can someone that frozen ever thaw? "Everyone can change," Thomas said gently. "They just need a reason to want to, and sometimes they need someone brave enough to chip away at the ice." Maya laughed. "Are you suggesting I should be the one to humanize Dominic Ashford? Thomas, the man called me insignificant." "He didn't know you," Thomas countered. "Now he's starting to see you're more than he assumed. That's progress." "Or it's a polite guest making nice after being rude," Maya said. "Don't matchmake, Thomas. It's beneath you." Thomas raised his hands in surrender, but his eyes twinkled with amusement. "I'm not matchmaking. I'm simply observing that you have a gift for seeing the best in people, and Dominic could use someone in his life who reminds him he's human." "Well, he can be reminded during his stay, and then he can go back to his empire of ice," Maya said firmly. "I'm not interested in being anyone's rehabilitation project." But as she walked back to her cottage on the resort grounds, one of the perks of her position, Maya couldn't stop thinking about the moment when Dominic had apologized. The discomfort in his eyes, the unfamiliarity with the words, but also the sincerity. Maybe Thomas was right. Maybe underneath all that ice, there was someone worth knowing. Or maybe she was being foolish, seeing potential where there was only calculation. Time would tell. The next morning arrived with the kind of perfect dawn that made early rising worthwhile. Maya stood on the beach in her yoga clothes, black leggings and a fitted tank top, waiting for the Ashford group to arrive for the sunrise session. She wasn't teaching. That was Emma's domain. Emma was a certified yoga instructor who ran morning sessions for guests, all gentle flows and calming energy. But Maya had decided to join today's class, partly to ensure everything went smoothly for such an important group, and partly, though she wouldn't admit it, because she was curious to see Dominic Ashford out of his armor of expensive suits and corporate authority. At 6:28, the group emerged from the resort, looking various degrees of awake. Jennifer seemed energized, already stretching. Marcus looked like he needed an IV of coffee, and Dominic... Maya tried not to stare. He wore simple black athletic pants and a grey t-shirt, his hair slightly disheveled from sleep, no shoes yet since they'd walk on the sand barefoot. Without his suits and his phone and his permanent expression of calculated control, he looked younger, more human. He saw her and paused mid-step, surprise crossing his features. "You're joining us." "I try to attend Emma's classes when I can," Maya said, which was true, though she usually preferred the afternoon sessions. "She's an excellent instructor." Emma greeted the group with her usual warmth, and they spread out their mats on the sand as the sky began to lighten from deep purple to soft pink. The ocean whispered against the shore, rhythmic and soothing. "This is ridiculous," muttered one of the younger executives, a man named Brett. "We should be reviewing the presentation for today's call." "We reviewed it 3 times yesterday," Jennifer said firmly. "We know it backwards and forwards. What we need now is to clear our heads so we can present it well." Dominic said nothing, but he positioned his mat and sat down, crossing his legs with the patience of someone determined to see something through, even if he thought it was pointless. Emma began the class with breathing exercises, her voice calm and melodic. "Inhale through your nose for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Let go of the thoughts about what you need to do today. Just be present in this moment, on this beach, with this breath." Maya watched Dominic from the corner of her eye. He was trying. She'd give him that. His eyes were closed, his posture straight, but tension radiated from every line of his body. He was a man who'd built an empire on constant motion, and sitting still was clearly torture. They moved through gentle poses, cat-cow, downward dog, warrior sequences. Maya had done these flows dozens of times and moved through them with easy grace. Jennifer was competent, clearly someone who practiced regularly. Marcus struggled but laughed at himself, which was endearing. Brett barely participated, checking his phone every few minutes until Jennifer glared at him. And Dominic was terrible at yoga. His movements were stiff, his balance questionable. During tree pose, he wobbled and nearly fell. During triangle pose, his form was so rigid that Emma had to come over and gently adjust his positioning. "Try to breathe into the stretch," Emma encouraged. "Don't force it. Yoga isn't about perfection, it's about presence." Dominic's jaw tightened, and Maya recognized the look. It was the expression of someone who wasn't used to being bad at things, who hated the vulnerability of struggling in front of others. When they moved into Savasana, the final resting pose, Emma instructed them to lie flat, close their eyes, and let go of all tension. The sun was rising now, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and golds, warming their skin. "Notice where you're holding stress," Emma said softly. "Your jaw, your shoulders, your lower back. Consciously release it. Let the earth support you. You don't have to hold yourself up right now, you can just be." Maya let herself sink into the sand, feeling the warmth of the sun and the coolness of the morning breeze, listening to the eternal rhythm of the waves. This was her favorite part of yoga, the permission to simply exist without purpose or productivity. She opened her eyes briefly and turned her head slightly, looking at Dominic lying a few feet away. His eyes were closed, his face turned toward the sky, and for the first time since he'd arrived, he looked peaceful. The lines of tension around his mouth had softened, his breathing had deepened and slowed. He looked, Maya thought, like a person instead of a corporate machine. Then his eyes opened, and he caught her looking at him. For a moment they just stared at each other across the sand, the sunrise between them, neither speaking. Maya felt something shift in the air, something she couldn't name, but could feel in the quickening of her pulse. Then Emma's voice broke the moment. "When you're ready, begin to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Roll to one side and slowly press yourself up to a seated position." The class ended, and the group rolled up their mats, thanking Emma for the session. As they walked back toward the resort, Jennifer fell into step beside Maya. "Thank you for recommending this," she said quietly. "I don't think Dominic would have done it if you hadn't suggested it, and he really needed it. We all did. I'm glad it was helpful, Maya said. He's not usually this intense, Jennifer continued, then caught herself. Actually, that's not true. He's always this intense, but the quantum solutions acquisition is huge, the biggest in our company's history, and the pressure is getting to him, to all of us. Pressure can bring out the worst in people, Maya observed. Or the best, depending on how they handle it. Exactly, Jennifer said. And Dominic handles it by working harder, pushing more, shutting down anything that looks like weakness. It's effective, but it's exhausting. For him and everyone around him. Maya glanced ahead to where Dominic walked with Marcus, already discussing something work-related despite the peaceful morning they'd just experienced. Does he have anyone? Outside of work? Jennifer's expression turned sad. No. His parents died when he was 26. Small plane crash. He threw himself into building the company, and somewhere along the way work became his entire life. No partner, no close friends outside the business, no hobbies. Just Ashford Tech, 24/7. Maya felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. She'd lost her parents too, knew the devastation of that kind of grief, but she'd had Thomas, had built a life that included work but wasn't consumed by it. Dominic had apparently let his grief calcify into isolation. That's sad, she said quietly. It is, Jennifer agreed. But he's also stubborn as hell, so good luck getting him to admit it. They reached the resort, and the group dispersed to shower and prepare for their morning meetings. Maya headed to her cottage to change for her shift at the front desk, trying to shake the image of Dominic lying in the sand, his face peaceful in the sunrise, looking like someone who deserved to be saved from his own isolation. But saving people wasn't her job. Running an excellent resort was, and she needed to remember that, no matter how much those storm-grey eyes kept appearing in her thoughts. The afternoon sun hung high over Seabreeze Resort as Maya organized the equipment for the coastal hike. She'd changed into practical hiking clothes, fitted khaki shorts, a white breathable tank top and sturdy boots. Her dark hair pulled back in a high ponytail. The trail they'd be taking was one of her favorites. 3 miles of moderate terrain along dramatic cliffs overlooking the Pacific, ending at a secluded cove with tide pools. Thomas had initially hired a professional guide for the Ashford group, but the guide had called in sick that morning. Maya had volunteered immediately. She knew these trails like the back of her hand, had hiked them dozens of times during her 3 years at the resort. You don't have to do this, Thomas had said when she offered. We can reschedule. It's fine, Maya assured him. I love this trail, and honestly, it'll be nice to get out of the resort for a few hours. Besides, someone needs to make sure Mr. Ashford doesn't check his email the entire time. Now, as she waited at the trailhead with backpacks full of water bottles, snacks and first aid supplies, she wondered if she'd made a mistake. Leading a hike was one thing. Leading a hike with Dominic Ashford was something else entirely. The group arrived at 2 o'clock sharp. They'd finished their morning meetings and lunch, and most looked ready for the break. Jennifer wore proper hiking gear and expensive sneakers. Marcus had sunscreen slathered on his nose. Brett looked annoyed to be away from his laptop. And Dominic? Dominic looked like he'd stepped out of an outdoor magazine. Athletic shorts that showed off muscular legs, a fitted navy t-shirt, expensive hiking boots that were clearly brand new. His sunglasses probably cost more than Maya's entire outfit. Good afternoon, everyone, Maya greeted them with a smile. I'm Maya, and I'll be your guide today. The trail is 3 miles out and back, moderate difficulty with some steep sections. The views are spectacular, and we'll end at a private cove where we can rest before heading back. Does anyone have any medical conditions I should know about? Knee problems, heart issues, severe allergies? Everyone shook their heads except Brett, who muttered, "Does extreme boredom count?" Jennifer elbowed him. Ignore Brett. He's still sulking about missing the conference call. The call was rescheduled to accommodate this activity, Dominic said coolly. You can sulk on your own time, Brett. Maya distributed water bottles and small backpacks. A few ground rules. Stay on the trail. Don't go near the cliff edges. They can be unstable, and if you need to stop and rest, speak up. This isn't a race. The goal is to enjoy the experience and get some exercise. And no phones, Jennifer added, looking pointedly at the executives. That was the deal, remember? 3 hours of complete disconnection. A collective groan went through the group, but they obediently handed their phones to Jennifer, who'd volunteered to carry them in a sealed bag, all except Dominic, who held onto his like a lifeline. "Mr. Ashford?" Maya prompted gently. "I'm expecting an important call from our legal team," Dominic said, "about the acquisition." "The call can wait 3 hours," Jennifer said firmly. "You promised, Dominic. Complete disconnection. That was the whole point." Dominic looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Jennifer's expression made him relent. He handed over his phone with visible reluctance, like a child surrendering a favorite toy. "There," Jennifer said, sealing the bag. "Now we can all be fully present." Maya led them to the trailhead, where a wooden sign marked the beginning of the cliffside trail. "We'll start with a gradual incline through the pine forest, then emerge onto the coastal path with the ocean views. The terrain gets rockier there, so watch your footing. Everyone ready?" They set off, Maya taking the lead with Jennifer beside her, the rest of the group strung out behind them. The trail started in dappled shade, pine needles soft underfoot, the air fragrant with resin and salt. Birds called from the canopy, and somewhere in the distance, the ocean murmured its eternal song. "This is gorgeous," Jennifer said, breathing deeply. "I can't remember the last time I was in nature like this." "It's one of my favorite places," Maya admitted. "There's something about being surrounded by trees and ocean that puts everything else in perspective." Behind them, she could hear Marcus and another executive, a woman named Diane, chatting about non-work topics for the first time all week. Brett was silent, probably still bitter about the phones. And Dominic, Maya glanced back. Dominic walked alone, hands in his pockets, his attention on the trail ahead. Without his phone, he looked oddly lost, like he didn't know what to do with his hands or his thoughts. They climbed steadily for 20 minutes before the trees began to thin, and suddenly they emerged onto the coastal path. The view opened up dramatically. Endless blue ocean stretching to the horizon, waves crashing against rocks far below, seabirds wheeling in the updrafts. "Oh my God," Diane breathed. "This is incredible." Maya stopped at a scenic overlook, giving everyone time to take in the vista. The path here ran along the cliff edge, protected by a low wooden fence, offering unobstructed views of the Pacific. The sun glinted off the water like scattered diamonds. "We'll follow this path for about a mile," Maya explained. "There are a few spots where the trail narrows, so we'll go single file. Take your time, watch your step, and enjoy the scenery." They continued, the group spreading out naturally. Jennifer stayed near Maya, asking questions about the local ecosystem, the resort's history, Maya's background in hospitality. Maya found herself relaxing into the conversation, enjoying Jennifer's genuine curiosity and warmth. "So, how did you end up at Seabreeze?" Jennifer asked. Maya hesitated, wondering how much to share. "I grew up in California, studied hospitality management in college. After graduation, I wanted to work at a place that prioritized guest experience and employee development. Seabreeze has that reputation, so I applied. Started at the front desk and worked my way into more responsibilities." It was all true, just missing the crucial detail about Thomas. Maya still wasn't ready to share that relationship, especially not with Dominic's team. "You're clearly good at what you do," Jennifer observed. "Thomas speaks very highly of you. He mentioned you're interested in eventually managing your own property." "That's the dream," Maya confirmed. "A small boutique hotel, maybe 20 to 30 rooms, focused on personalized service and unique experiences, something intimate and special." "That sounds wonderful," Jennifer said. "I hope you achieve it." Behind them, Maya heard Brett complaining about the heat, the distance, the lack of cell service. She bit back a sigh. There was always one in every group. Then Dominic's voice, sharp and impatient. "Brett, if you're going to complain the entire time, you can wait at the trailhead. The rest of us are capable of appreciating something that doesn't involve a screen." Brett fell silent, chastened. Maya glanced back and caught Dominic's eye. He was closer now, having moved up through the group. Without his phone to distract him, he seemed to be actually observing his surroundings. The ocean, the cliffs, the wildflowers growing in rocky crevices. "How much further to the cove?" he asked. "About 40 minutes, Maya replied. "There's a narrow section coming up, so we'll need to go single file and take it slow." The narrow section was exactly as described, a stretch where the trail hugged the cliff face, wide enough for safe passage but requiring attention and care. Maya went first, demonstrating the route, then helped each person navigate the tricky spots. When Dominic's turn came, he approached with his usual confidence, but Maya noticed he stayed away from the edge, his movements more cautious than she'd expected. "Heights aren't your favorite?" she asked quietly as he passed. "I prefer solid ground under my feet," he admitted, "preferably with concrete and steel infrastructure." Maya smiled. "Not a nature person, then?" "I appreciate efficiency and predictability," Dominic replied. "Nature is neither." "That's what makes it beautiful," Maya said. "The unpredictability, the fact that you can't control it or optimize it. You just have to experience it." Dominic looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. "You sound like you're describing the opposite of how I run my life." Maybe that's why you need this hike," Maya suggested gently. They continued in silence, but Maya was hyper-aware of his presence behind her, the sound of his breathing, the crunch of his boots on the rocky trail. She told herself it was just normal guide awareness, making sure everyone was safe. She told herself that, but she didn't quite believe it. The trail opened up again, winding through a meadow of coastal wildflowers, purple lupines, yellow California poppies, white yarrow nodding in the breeze. The group spread out, some taking photos with the disposable cameras Maya had brought for those who wanted them, others simply walking and talking. Marcus caught up to Maya, his face flushed but smiling. "I have to say, this was a great idea. I was skeptical at first, but this is exactly what I needed. My brain feels clearer than it has in weeks." "That's the power of disconnection," Maya said. "When you're not constantly stimulated by screens and notifications, your mind has space to process and reset." "You should tell that to Dominic," Marcus said, lowering his voice. "The man hasn't taken a real vacation in 5 years. Even when he travels, he's working. I don't think he knows how to just be." "Some people use work to avoid other things," Maya observed. "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "In Dominic's case, I think he's avoiding dealing with the fact that he's lonely. Not that he'd ever admit it. He's convinced himself that success is enough, that achievements can substitute for human connection." Maya thought about what Thomas had told her, about Dominic losing his parents and burying himself in work, about the empire he'd built and the isolation he'd accepted as the price. "That's a sad way to live," she said quietly. "It is," Marcus agreed. "But try telling him that. He's got walls so high you'd need a crane to get over them." They walked on, and Maya found her thoughts drifting to the man behind her, wondering what it would take to reach someone who'd locked themselves away so thoroughly. The cove, when they finally reached it, was worth every step. A perfect crescent of sandy beach tucked between dramatic rock formations, accessible only by the trail they'd just hiked. Tide pools dotted the rocks, full of starfish and anemones and tiny crabs. The water was impossibly blue, clear enough to see fish darting through the shallows. "This is paradise," Jennifer breathed. Maya set down her backpack and pulled out the snacks she'd brought: sandwiches, fruit, granola bars, and cookies from the resort's kitchen. "We'll rest here for 30 minutes, then head back. Feel free to explore the tide pools, but be careful on the wet rocks. They're slippery." The group scattered, some sitting on the sand to eat, others immediately drawn to the tide pools. Maya walked along the water's edge, letting the waves lap at her boots, breathing in the salt air. This was why she loved working at Seabreeze. Moments like this, when she could share beautiful places with people and watch them decompress and reconnect with something essential. "Thank you." Maya turned to find Dominic standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, his expression less guarded than usual. "For what?" she asked. "For this." He gestured at the cove, the ocean, the whole afternoon. "For recommending it. For organizing it when the guide cancelled. For putting up with Brett's complaining." He paused. "For treating me normally despite the fact that I was an ass to you when I checked in." Maya studied him. This man who seemed so uncomfortable with vulnerability. "You apologized last night. We don't need to revisit it." "I know," Dominic said. "But I want you to understand that I—" He struggled with the words, clearly unused to explaining himself. "I exist in a world where efficiency is paramount, where time is money, where sentiment is weakness. I've built my entire life around those principles, and sometimes I forget that not everyone operates that way, that not everything valuable can be quantified." It was the most personal thing he'd said since arriving, and Maya felt something shift between them, some small crack in the ice. "Apology accepted," she said softly. "And for what it's worth, I think you needed this afternoon more than you realized." Dominic looked out at the ocean, his profile sharp against the blue sky. "I haven't done anything like this in years. Hiking, being in nature, disconnecting from work, I'd forgotten what it feels like." "What does it feel like?" Maya asked. He was quiet for a long moment, and she thought he might not answer. Then, terrifying and liberating in equal measure. Maya understood exactly what he meant. That's how growth usually feels. Dominic turned to look at her, really look at her, and Maya felt the weight of that gaze. There was intelligence in those storm-grey eyes, yes, but also loneliness, uncertainty, and something else she couldn't quite name. "You're not what I expected," he said. "What did you expect?" Maya asked, curious despite herself. "I don't know," Dominic admitted. "But not someone who could organize a perfect afternoon, lead a hike with competence and grace, and somehow make me feel like I've been missing something essential in my life." Maya's breath caught. The words were so honest, so unguarded, coming from a man who seemed to guard everything. "Maybe you have been," she said gently. Before Dominic could respond, Brett's voice cut through the moment. "Hey, Maya, how much longer? Some of us have work to get back to." Maya closed her eyes briefly, fighting frustration. 15 more minutes, she called back. When she looked at Dominic again, the guards were back up, the vulnerability shuttered away. "We should head back soon," he said, his tone professional again. "I have calls to make this evening." "Of course," Maya said, trying to hide her disappointment. But as Dominic walked away to rejoin his team, she couldn't shake the feeling that something important had just happened. Some small door had opened, revealing a glimpse of the person behind the corporate armor. And despite her better judgment, despite knowing he'd be gone in a few days, despite the obvious impossibility of it all, Maya wanted to see more. The hike back was quieter, everyone tired but pleasantly so, the kind of exhaustion that comes from physical exertion and fresh air. Maya led them back through the meadow, down the narrow section, along the cliff path, with its spectacular views, now painted in late afternoon gold. Dominic walked near her this time, not quite beside her, but close enough for conversation. They didn't talk much, but the silence felt different than before, less hostile, more contemplative. When they reached the forest section, cooler and shadowed, Jennifer fell back to walk with Dominic, and Maya heard them discussing tomorrow's meetings. The brief moment of connection at the cove seemed to have passed, and Dominic was back in business mode. Maya told herself that was fine, that was normal. He was here for work, not personal revelation. The fact that he'd let his guard down for 5 minutes didn't mean anything. But when they reached the trailhead and everyone was thanking her for the wonderful afternoon, Dominic lingered after the others had headed back toward the resort. "Tonight is the cooking class, correct?" he asked. "Yes," Maya confirmed. 7 o'clock in the resort's teaching kitchen. Chef Marcus will guide you through preparing a three-course meal. It's hands-on, collaborative, and usually a lot of fun. Dominic nodded slowly. And will you be there? Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. I wasn't planning on it. The class is just for your group. I'm asking if you'll be there, Dominic clarified, his grey eyes steady on hers. Maya knew she should say no. Should maintain professional distance. Should not get involved with a guest, especially one who'd be gone in 3 days. I'll be there, she heard herself say. Something that might have been satisfaction flickered across Dominic's face. Good. I'll see you at 7. He walked away, leaving Maya standing at the trailhead, wondering what exactly she'd just agreed to and why her pulse was racing like she'd just run a marathon instead of led a hike. Jennifer appeared beside her, having circled back. He likes you, Maya startled. What? No, he's just being polite, because I organized the activities. Maya, Jennifer said with a knowing smile, I've worked with Dominic for 6 years. He's never, not once, asked someone to attend an event they weren't required to be at. He doesn't do social niceties. He doesn't make small talk. And he definitely doesn't linger to ask receptionists to join cooking classes. I'm not a receptionist, Maya said automatically, then caught herself. I mean, I am, but that's not all I am. I wear multiple hats at the resort. Whatever you are, Jennifer said, you've gotten under his skin. I saw the way he looked at you at the cove. That's not his usual calculating assessment. That's actual interest, maybe even attraction. Maya shook her head. He's a guest. I'm staff. It's inappropriate. It's also human, Jennifer countered. And Dominic needs to remember he's human, so maybe let him be interested. Maybe be interested back. What's the harm? He leaves in 3 days, Maya pointed out. So make them 3 good days, Jennifer suggested. Not everything has to be forever to be worthwhile. She walked away, leaving Maya alone with her swirling thoughts and the uncomfortable realization that she was interested. That somewhere between his rude check-in and his vulnerable confession at the cove, Dominic Ashford had become more than just a difficult guest. He'd become someone she wanted to know. The teaching kitchen at Seabreeze was a stunning space. All stainless steel and marble counters, professional-grade appliances, and enough room for 12 people to work comfortably. Large windows overlooked the resort gardens, and soft lighting created an atmosphere that was both professional and intimate. Maya arrived at 6:45, having changed into casual clothes, dark jeans and a soft green sweater that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. She told herself she wasn't dressing up for Dominic. She told herself she just wanted to look nice. She was lying to herself, and she knew it. Chef Marcus greeted her with surprise. Maya, I didn't know you were joining us tonight. Last-minute addition, Maya said, helping him arrange the ingredients at each cooking station. I hope that's all right. Of course! You know I love having you in my kitchen. Chef Marcus was a jovial man in his 50s with a thick French accent and a genuine passion for teaching. Tonight we make coq au vin, roasted vegetables with herbes de Provence, and tarte tatin for dessert. Simple but classic. Perfect for beginners. The Ashford group arrived promptly at 7, and Maya noticed that everyone seemed more relaxed than they had that morning. The day of physical activity and disconnection had done them good. They chatted and laughed as they put on aprons and gathered around the demonstration counter. Dominic entered last, and his eyes found Maya immediately. He'd changed into dark jeans and a black button-down with the sleeves rolled up, casual but still somehow elegant. When he smiled at her, a small, genuine smile, Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. Tonight, Chef Marcus announced, we cook together as a team. I will demonstrate each technique, then you will practice at your stations. We have 6 stations, so you will work in pairs. Choose your partners. The group paired off naturally. Jennifer with Diane, Marcus with another executive named Robert, Brett with the last team member, Elena. That left Maya and Dominic. Looks like we're together, Dominic said, and there was something in his voice that made the simple statement feel loaded with meaning. Looks like it, Maya agreed, trying to sound casual. They moved to their station, and Chef Marcus began demonstrating how to prepare the chicken for coq au vin, how to season it, brown it properly, build the flavors with wine and aromatics. Maya had made this dish before in one of Chef Marcus's previous classes, so she felt confident. Dominic, however, looked at the raw chicken like it might attack him. "Have you cooked before?" Maya asked. "I can order takeout with exceptional efficiency," Dominic said dryly. "Does that count?" Maya laughed. "Not really. Okay, cooking lesson number 1. Don't be afraid of the ingredients. It's just food. The worst that happens is we mess it up and have to start over." "I don't mess things up," Dominic said, but there was humor in his tone rather than arrogance. "Well, prepare for a new experience," Maya teased. "Now season the chicken pieces with salt and pepper, then we'll brown them in the pan." They worked together, and Maya found herself enjoying the rhythm of it, showing Dominic how to properly sear the chicken so it developed a golden crust, teaching him to deglaze the pan with wine, demonstrating the proper way to chop vegetables without losing fingers. Dominic was a surprisingly attentive student. He listened carefully, asked questions when he didn't understand, and didn't get frustrated when things didn't work perfectly the first time. Watching him focus on something other than spreadsheets and acquisitions was oddly endearing. "You're better at this than you thought," Maya observed as he successfully flipped a piece of chicken without splashing oil everywhere. "I have a good teacher," Dominic replied, and the way he looked at her made Maya's breath catch. Around them, the other pairs were chatting and laughing, the kitchen filling with delicious smells and easy camaraderie. This was what Thomas had envisioned for the retreat. Team building through shared experience, connections formed through collaboration rather than competition. As they waited for their chicken to simmer in the wine sauce, Dominic leaned against the counter, watching Maya prep the vegetables for roasting. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Sure," Maya replied, focused on cutting potatoes into even pieces. "Why hospitality? You're clearly intelligent, capable, could probably succeed in any field. Why choose an industry that involves catering to demanding people all day?" Maya considered the question, wanting to give him an honest answer. "Because I love making people happy. I love creating experiences that matter, moments that people remember. A wedding anniversary dinner that's perfect. A family vacation where every detail is handled so they can just enjoy each other. A business retreat where stressed executives remember how to be human." She looked up at him. "There's something beautiful about serving others, about making someone's day better just by being excellent at your job." Dominic was quiet for a moment, and Maya couldn't read his expression. "That's a remarkable way to view service," he finally said. "Most people see it as subservient beneath them, but you see it as powerful." "It is powerful," Maya said. "Hospitality done well can change someone's entire day, their entire outlook. Never underestimate the power of genuine kindness and attention to detail." "Is that what you did for me?" Dominic asked quietly. "Tried to change my outlook?" Maya met his eyes. "I tried to show you that not everything valuable can be measured in metrics and ROI. That sometimes the most important things are the ones you can't quantify. Beauty, connection, the feeling of sun on your face and ocean air in your lungs." "You succeeded," Dominic said. "I can't remember the last time I spent 3 hours without my phone and didn't feel anxious about what I was missing. But this afternoon, on that hike at the cove," he paused, searching for words, "I felt present, actually in my life instead of just managing it from a distance." The confession hung between them, vulnerable and honest. Maya wanted to reach across the counter, touch his hand, tell him it didn't have to be like this, that he could have both success and connection, achievement and joy. But before she could say anything, Chef Marcus announced it was time to check the coq au vin and prepare the dessert. They worked side by side for the next hour, following Chef Marcus's instructions for the tarte tatin, caramelizing apples, arranging them in a pan, covering them with buttery pastry. Dominic was meticulous, wanting to get every detail right, and Maya found his focus charming rather than obsessive. "You're a perfectionist," she observed as he rearranged the apple slices for the third time. "Is that a criticism?" Dominic asked. "An observation," Maya clarified. "Perfectionism has its place, but sometimes good enough is actually good enough. The tart will taste delicious even if the apples aren't arranged with geometric precision." Dominic looked at his handiwork, then at Maya's more casual arrangement, then back at his. "You're right," he admitted, stepping away from the pan. "Old habits." "What made you that way?" Maya asked. "The need for perfection." Dominic was quiet as they slid their tart into the oven. When he spoke, his voice was lower, meant only for her. "When my parents died, everything felt out of control, chaotic, random. Building the company gave me something I could control, something I could perfect through sheer force of will. It became necessary. The order, the precision, the constant optimization. It was how I survived." Maya's heart ached for him. "I'm sorry about your parents. I lost mine too when I was 16. Car accident." Dominic's eyes widened. "I'm sorry, I was 26 when I lost mine. Small plane crash. It's not the same as losing them as a teenager." "Loss is loss," Maya said gently. "There's no hierarchy of grief." "How did you cope?" Dominic asked. "After they died." Maya thought about the dark months after the accident, the grief that felt like drowning. "I had help, someone who stepped in, who made sure I wasn't alone. Someone who taught me that building walls might feel safe, but it also keeps out everything good along with the bad." She was talking about Thomas, of course, but she still wasn't ready to share that connection. Dominic nodded slowly. "I didn't have that. I had employees depending on me, investors to answer to, a company to build. So I built walls instead of seeking help. And now," he gestured vaguely, "here I am, successful, accomplished, and completely alone." The admission was so raw, so honest, that Maya did reach across the counter this time, placing her hand over his. "You don't have to stay alone." Dominic looked down at their hands, his larger one warm beneath hers. "I don't know how to be any other way." "You start with small steps," Maya said. "Like attending a yoga class you don't think you need. Going on a hike without your phone. Making coq au vin with someone who barely qualifies as a cooking teacher. You take small steps toward connection, and eventually the walls start coming down." Dominic turned his hand over, threading his fingers through hers, and Maya's pulse jumped. They stood like that, hands clasped across the cooking station, the noise and chatter of the kitchen fading into background. "Maya," Dominic said, his voice rough, "I leave in 3 days." "I know," Maya replied. "This is complicated. You work here, I'm a guest. Thomas is my mentor and clearly values you. There are professional boundaries, ethical considerations." "I know," Maya said again. "But I can't stop thinking about you," Dominic finished. "Since the moment you stood on that staircase with Thomas, looking so completely yourself, so confident and warm and real, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." Maya's breath caught. "Dominic? The tarts!" Chef Marcus announced loudly, making them both jump and release hands. "We must check the tarts. They should be golden and beautiful." The moment shattered, everyone rushed to pull their desserts from the ovens. Maya and Dominic's tarte tatin was perfect, caramelized and fragrant, the pastry golden. They plated it with fresh cream, and the whole group sat down at a long table to enjoy the meal they'd created together. The coq au vin was rich and flavorful, the vegetables perfectly roasted, the tart a sweet, satisfying conclusion. The executives laughed and joked, sharing stories about disastrous cooking attempts and memorable meals. It was the most relaxed Maya had seen them all week, but all through dinner she was hyper-aware of Dominic beside her, their shoulders occasionally brushing. The way he laughed at something Jennifer said, the sound warm and genuine. The way his knee touched hers under the table, and neither of them moved away. When the meal ended and the group began to disperse, thanking Chef Marcus and Maya for a wonderful evening, Dominic hung back again. "Walk with me?" he asked quietly. Maya knew she should say no, should maintain boundaries. should not get involved with a guest who'd be gone in 3 days and who lived a life completely incompatible with hers. Yes, she said anyway. They walked through the resort gardens, lit by soft landscape lighting, the sound of fountains and the distant ocean creating a peaceful soundtrack. The night was cool, and Maya wrapped her arms around herself. Without asking, Dominic shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It was warm from his body and smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely him. "Thank you," Maya said. They walked in silence for a while, following the path that wound through flowering shrubs and palm trees, past the pool area where underwater lights created shifting blue patterns, toward a gazebo overlooking the ocean. "This resort is beautiful," Dominic said. "Thomas built something special here." "He did," Maya agreed. "He loves this place. Loves creating experiences that matter, spaces where people can be themselves." "Is that what you want?" Dominic asked. "Your own place where you can create those experiences?" "Yes," Maya said. "Someday. A small boutique hotel, maybe 20 rooms, where I can know every guest by name, where every detail is personal and meaningful, where people come not just for luxury but for connection." "You'll be brilliant at it," Dominic said with certainty. They reached the gazebo and sat on the curved bench, looking out at the moonlit ocean. The waves caught silver light, rolling eternally toward shore. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said. "Anything. If you could have anything in your life that you don't have now, not related to business or acquisitions or success, what would it be?" Dominic was quiet for so long that Maya thought he might not answer. Then, "This, sitting with someone I enjoy talking to, in a beautiful place, without thinking about tomorrow's meetings or next quarter's projections, just being with another person, mattering to someone outside of what I can provide or achieve." Maya's throat tightened. "You do matter, Dominic. Not because of Ashford Tech or your acquisitions or your net worth. You matter because you're a person, complicated and brilliant and lonely and trying. That's enough." Dominic turned to look at her, and in the moonlight, his expression was unguarded in a way she'd never seen. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "See past everything I've built, all the walls and armor and corporate efficiency, and still think I'm worth knowing." "Because everyone is worth knowing if you look closely enough," Maya said simply. "And because underneath the Ice King reputation, I see someone who's just scared of being hurt again. Someone who thinks isolation is safety, when really it's just another kind of loss." Dominic reached out, his hand cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "You're extraordinary, Maya Torres." "I'm really not," Maya whispered. "I'm just someone who pays attention." "That's what makes you extraordinary," Dominic said, and then he kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was asking permission. Maya answered by leaning into him, her hand coming up to rest against his chest, where she could feel his heart racing. The kiss deepened, became something more. Weeks of tension and unexpected connection and mutual fascination pouring into that moment. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "This is crazy," he murmured. "Completely," Maya agreed. "I leave in 3 days. I know. I don't do relationships. I don't have time. I don't have the capacity. I've structured my entire life to avoid exactly this kind of complication." "I know that too," Maya said. "But I can't stop wanting to be near you," Dominic finished. "Can't stop wanting more of whatever this is." Maya pulled back enough to look at him. "So, what do we do?" Dominic was quiet, clearly struggling with something. Finally, "I don't know. I don't have an algorithm for this. No data to guide the decision. For the first time in years, I'm acting on feeling rather than logic, and it's terrifying." "Welcome to being human," Maya said gently. "It's terrifying for everyone." Dominic laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. "Is this what normal people deal with all the time? This uncertainty, this vulnerability?" "Pretty much," Maya confirmed. "You get used to it, sort of." They sat in the gazebo for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Maya's dreams for her hotel, Dominic's memories of building Ashford Tech from nothing, their favorite books and movies and places they'd traveled. It was the kind of conversation that felt both brand new and comfortingly familiar, like finding someone who spoke your language in a foreign country. Eventually, reluctantly, they walked back toward the main resort. At the entrance, where their paths would diverge, Dominic to his suite, Maya to her cottage, they stopped. "Tomorrow," Dominic said, "I have meetings all day. But tomorrow night, after dinner, will you have a drink with me? Just us?" Maya knew she should create distance, should let this moment at the gazebo be the end of whatever was sparking between them. But looking at Dominic's hopeful expression, at the way he was clearly stepping outside every comfort zone he'd carefully constructed, she couldn't bring herself to say no. "Yes," she said. "Tomorrow night." Dominic smiled, and it transformed his entire face, making him look younger and happier and more alive than she'd yet seen him. "Tomorrow night, then." He kissed her forehead gently, a promise rather than a conclusion, and walked toward the elevators. Maya stood in the lobby, wearing his jacket, her lips still tingling from their kiss, her heart doing complicated gymnastics in her chest. She was falling for Dominic Ashford. It was impractical, probably unwise, certainly complicated, and she couldn't seem to stop herself. The next day crawled by with excruciating slowness. Maya went through her duties on autopilot, checking guests in, coordinating with housekeeping, solving minor crises, but her mind kept drifting to Dominic, to their kiss in the gazebo, to the promise of tonight. She'd barely slept, tossing and turning in her cottage, analyzing everything from every angle. This was reckless. He was a guest. He lived in a different world, corporate jets and board meetings and billion-dollar acquisitions. She was rooted here, dreaming of her small boutique hotel, building a life centered on service and connection. But then she'd remember the vulnerability in his eyes when he admitted his loneliness, the way he'd listened to her opinions about balance and presence. The transformation she'd witnessed over just 3 days, from the Ice King, who'd dismissed her as insignificant, to a man capable of sitting in a gazebo and talking about feelings. "You're distracted," David observed from behind the reception desk around 3 o'clock. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Maya said quickly. "Just tired." "Uh-huh." David didn't look convinced. This wouldn't have anything to do with a certain tech billionaire who keeps finding reasons to walk through the lobby, would it? Maya's head snapped up. "What?" "Dominic Ashford has passed through here 4 times today," David said with a knowing grin. "And each time he looks directly at you before heading wherever he's actually going. It's subtle, but I notice things. He's just familiarizing himself with the resort," Maya said weakly. "Sure he is." David laughed. "Look, I'm not judging. The man is gorgeous, and I saw the way you two looked at each other during that cooking class last night. Yes, Chef Marcus told me all about it. Just be careful, okay? Guys like that don't usually stick around." "I know," Maya said quietly. "Believe me, I know." At 6 o'clock, Maya's shift ended. She practically ran to her cottage to change, then stopped herself. What was she doing? This wasn't a date. It was just a drink with a guest. Casual. Professional even. Except it wasn't, and they both knew it. She showered and changed into a simple black dress, elegant but not overdone, with a fitted bodice and a skirt that fell just above her knees. She left her hair down in loose waves, applied minimal makeup and slipped on low heels. Looking at herself in the mirror, she saw a woman balanced on the edge of something both thrilling and terrifying. "You're an idiot," she told her reflection. "A complete idiot." But she went anyway. Dominic had suggested the resort's smaller bar, the Compass Room, an intimate space with leather chairs, dim lighting and a view of the gardens. It was quieter than the main lounge, more private. Maya arrived at 7:30 to find Dominic already there, seated in a corner booth. He changed into dark slacks and a charcoal sweater that highlighted his broad shoulders. When he saw her, he stood, and the smile that crossed his face was worth every anxious moment of the day. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Thank you. Maya slid into the booth across from him. You clean up pretty well yourself. A server appeared, and they ordered wine for Maya, scotch for Dominic. When they were alone again, an almost shy silence fell between them. This is strange, Dominic said finally. I negotiate billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but sitting here with you, I'm nervous. Good, Maya said with a small smile. Nervous means it matters. Their drinks arrived, and Dominic raised his glass. To stepping outside comfort zones, Maya clinked her glass against his, and to whatever comes next. They talked easily, the conversation flowing from topic to topic. Dominic told her about his upcoming acquisition, but this time with less clinical detachment. He spoke about the challenges, the pressure from his board, his concerns about getting it right. Jennifer says I'm too hard on the team, he admitted, that I push too much, expect too much. Do you? Maya asked. Probably, Dominic conceded. I expect from others what I expect from myself, perfection, constant improvement, total dedication, but maybe that's not fair. Maybe not everyone wants to sacrifice everything for success. What have you sacrificed? Maya asked gently. Dominic swirled his scotch, watching the amber liquid catch the light. Everything that makes life meaningful, apparently. Relationships, friendships, hobbies, rest. I haven't read a book for pleasure in 5 years. Haven't taken a vacation. Haven't let anyone close enough to matter. Why not? Because mattering to someone means they can hurt you, Dominic said simply. And after my parents died, I decided I was done being hurt. Maya reached across the table, taking his hand. But you're hurting anyway. Just in a different way. Loneliness is its own kind of pain. I know, Dominic said quietly. I'm starting to realize that, being here, meeting you, it's made me see what I've been missing. And now I don't know what to do about it. What do you want to do? Maya asked. Dominic's grey eyes met hers, intense and searching. I want to be selfish. I want to take these last 2 days and pretend the real world doesn't exist. I want to be with you without thinking about logistics or consequences, or the fact that I'm setting myself up for exactly the kind of pain I've been avoiding. Maya's breath caught. That's a lot to want. I know. Dominic's thumb traced circles on her palm. And it's not fair to you. You deserve someone who can stay, who can build something real, not someone passing through for a business retreat. Maybe I get to decide what's fair to me, Maya said. Maybe I'm willing to take 2 days of something real over a lifetime of playing it safe. You don't play it safe? Dominic asked with a slight smile. Not when it matters, Maya replied. And this feels like it matters. Dominic moved around the booth to sit beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth, smell his cologne. Maya, I need you to understand. I'm not good at this. At being vulnerable, at letting people in. I'll probably mess this up 100 different ways. Then we'll figure it out together, Maya said. No expectations beyond right now, just let's be honest with each other. About what we're feeling, what we want, what scares us. What scares you? Dominic asked. Maya considered. That I'll fall for you completely, and you'll go back to your life and forget this ever happened. That I'll be just another business trip, another transaction, another line item filed away. That won't happen, Dominic said firmly. Whatever this is, however it ends, you won't be forgotten, I promise you that. He kissed her then, deeper than the night before, with an urgency that spoke of limited time and infinite longing. Maya responded, her hands sliding into his hair, pulling him closer. They broke apart when a discreet cough reminded them they were still in a public space. The server was studiously examining the opposite wall, giving them privacy while making his presence known. Perhaps, Dominic said, slightly breathless, we should continue this somewhere more private. Maya knew what he was asking, knew what going to his suite would mean. This was the moment to pull back, to maintain boundaries, to protect herself. Your suite or mine? She asked instead. Dominic smiled. That genuine, transformative smile that made him look like a different person. Mine is larger, better view. They settled the bill and walked through the resort, not quite touching but hyper-aware of each other. In the elevator, alone finally, Dominic pulled Maya against him, kissing her with an intensity that made her knees weak. "You're sure?" he murmured against her lips. "Once we do this, there's no going back to professional distance." "I haven't had professional distance since you kissed me in the gazebo," Maya pointed out. "Maybe not even since you apologized at dinner that first night. I'm sure, Dominic, I want this. I want you." The elevator doors opened on the 12th floor, and they walked to the presidential suite. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the ocean under moonlight, and the space was elegantly appointed with modern furniture and luxurious touches. But Maya barely noticed the decor. All her attention was on Dominic, on the way he looked at her like she was something precious and unexpected. "Come here," he said softly, and Maya went. Much later, wrapped in expensive sheets with Dominic's arms around her, Maya felt simultaneously peaceful and anxious. The peaceful part was simple: being held, being wanted, feeling connected to another person. The anxious part was more complicated. "What are you thinking?" Dominic asked, his voice rumbling in his chest beneath her ear. "That this is going to hurt when you leave," Maya admitted. "But that I don't regret it." Dominic tightened his arms around her. "What if I didn't leave? Not permanently, I mean. I have a company to run. But what if this wasn't just 2 days? What if we tried to make it work?" Maya lifted her head to look at him. "You live in San Francisco. I live here. You travel constantly for business. I'm building a career in hospitality that requires physical presence. How would it work?" "I don't know," Dominic said honestly. "But I know I don't want this to end on Saturday. I know that what I feel for you isn't something I've felt for anyone, maybe ever. I know that you've changed something fundamental in me these past 3 days, and I can't just go back to how things were." "Dominic, I'm not asking you to have all the answers," he interrupted gently. "I'm just asking if you're willing to try, to see if what we have can survive outside this resort bubble." Maya thought about Thomas, about her dreams of her own hotel, about the life she was building here. Then she thought about the loneliness of playing it safe, of never taking risks on the things that mattered most. "Yes," she said, "I'm willing to try." Dominic kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "Then we'll figure out the logistics. Together." They fell asleep tangled together, and for the first time in years, Dominic slept through the night without waking to check his phone or review presentations or plan the next day's strategy. He just slept, peaceful and content, with Maya in his arms. The next morning, Maya woke early, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar room. Then she remembered the bar, the conversation, coming to Dominic's suite, everything that followed. Dominic was still asleep beside her, his face relaxed in a way she'd never seen while he was awake. He looked younger, less burdened, almost vulnerable. Maya knew she should leave before anyone saw her, should maintain some discretion. But she couldn't bring herself to slip away without saying goodbye. She was saved from the decision when Dominic's eyes opened, focusing on her immediately. "Good morning." "Good morning," Maya replied. "I should probably go. I have an early shift, and—" "Stay," Dominic said, pulling her back down. "Just 5 more minutes." Those 5 minutes stretched to 20, then 30, as they talked and kissed and laughed together. Finally, reluctantly, Maya extracted herself. "I really do have to go," she said, searching for her dress. "But tonight I have the final acquisition call," Dominic said. "It'll probably run late, but tomorrow is my last full day here. Spend it with me, all of it?" Maya hesitated. Taking a whole day off would require explanation, would make their relationship visible to the staff. But looking at Dominic's hopeful expression, she found she didn't care. "Yes," she said. "I'll spend tomorrow with you." She slipped out of his suite, taking the stairs instead of the elevator to avoid running into anyone. Her cottage was only a 5-minute walk, and she made it back without being seen, or so she thought. Thomas was waiting on her porch, 2 cups of coffee in hand. his expression a mixture of concern and amusement. "Good morning, sweetheart," he said mildly. "Walk of shame or walk of happiness? I'm hoping for the latter." Maya's face flamed. "Thomas, it's okay," he said gently, handing her a coffee. "You're an adult. Dominic's an adult. As long as you're both happy and nobody's getting hurt, I'm not going to interfere. But I am going to ask, are you sure about this? I care about Dominic, but I know his track record with relationships, or lack thereof." Maya sat beside him on the porch steps, sipping the coffee. "I'm not sure about anything except that I want to try. He's different than I expected, Thomas. Underneath all the ice, there's someone warm and lonely and trying so hard to figure out how to be human again." "I know," Thomas said. "I've seen glimpses of that person over the years. I'm glad he's showing that side to you. Just protect your heart, Maya. Don't lose yourself trying to save him." "I won't," Maya promised. "I'm going into this with eyes open. Whatever happens, happens." Thomas kissed her forehead. "That's all I can ask. Now go shower and change. You have guests who need you to be professional, Maya, not starry-eyed in love, Maya." "I'm not in love," Maya protested. Thomas just smiled and walked away, and Maya realized she'd already lost that argument. Friday arrived with golden sunshine and the bittersweet awareness that it was Dominic's final full day at Seabreeze. Maya had arranged for coverage at the front desk, claiming a personal day, the first she'd taken in months. Thomas had approved it with a knowing smile and no questions asked. She met Dominic at sunrise on the beach, both of them barefoot in the sand, watching the sky transform from purple to orange to brilliant blue. "I can't remember the last time I watched a sunrise," Dominic said, his arm around her waist, pulling her close. "You're making up for lost time," Maya replied, leaning into his warmth. They spent the morning kayaking in the calm waters of a protected cove, laughing when Dominic nearly capsized trying to photograph a sea turtle on his phone. They had lunch at a small beachside restaurant Maya loved, sharing fish tacos and talking about everything except his departure tomorrow. In the afternoon, they returned to his suite, and the conversation turned serious. "I spoke to my board this morning," Dominic said, his fingers threading through Maya's hair as they lay tangled in his bed. "About restructuring my schedule, delegating more, actually taking time off occasionally." Maya propped herself up on one elbow. "What did they say?" "That I've been saying I'll delegate for 5 years and never do," Dominic admitted with a wry smile. "But I'm serious this time. I want to be able to come back here, to see you, to have a life outside of conference rooms and acquisition calls." "I want that too," Maya said. "But Dominic, we have to be realistic. Long distance is hard. Your work is demanding. My career is here." "What if it wasn't?" Dominic interrupted. Maya blinked. "What?" "What if your career wasn't tied to this specific place?" Dominic sat up, his expression intense. "You said you want your own boutique hotel eventually. What if I helped you make that happen? I have capital, connections, experience with business development." "Stop," Maya said firmly, pulling away. "Just stop." Dominic looked confused. "I'm offering to help." "You're offering to buy me," Maya said, her voice sharp with hurt, "to turn me into another acquisition, another project to optimize and control." "That's not what I meant," Dominic protested, reaching for her. Maya stood, wrapping the sheet around herself. "Isn't it? You see a problem, the distance between us, and immediately try to solve it by throwing money at it, by making me dependent on you, by changing my entire life to fit into yours." "Maya, that's not fair." "You're right, it's not fair," Maya agreed, her eyes stinging with tears. "It's not fair that I've fallen for you. It's not fair that you're leaving tomorrow. It's not fair that the way you show care is by trying to manage and control everything around you." She took a shaky breath. "I don't want to be your project, Dominic. I don't want you to fund my dreams, because then they become your dreams. I need to build my future myself, on my own terms, even if it takes longer." Dominic stood, his face stricken. "I was trying to help, to show you that I'm serious about making this work." "I know," Maya said more softly. But I need you to be serious about us, not about fixing the logistics. I need you to trust that we can figure it out together without you having to control everything." They stared at each other across the room, the joy of the morning dissolving into this painful reality check. "You're right," Dominic said finally. "I'm sorry. Old habits, trying to solve everything with resources and strategy instead of just being present in the uncertainty." Maya moved back to him, cupping his face in her hands. "I know you were trying to help, but the best thing you can do is work on yourself, on learning to live without all the walls and control, on building a life that has room for spontaneity and emotion and things you can't predict or optimize." "That terrifies me," Dominic admitted. "I know," Maya said, "but you're already doing it. These past 4 days you've been present, vulnerable, real. That's the person I'm falling for, not the billionaire who can solve everything with money." Dominic pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I don't want to lose you." "Then don't try to own me," Maya whispered. "Just be with me. However imperfectly, however complicated, just be with me." They held each other as the afternoon light slanted through the windows, both understanding that tomorrow would bring separation and uncertainty, and the hard work of trying to build something real across the distance. That evening, they had dinner with Thomas, Dominic's request. The three of them sat at a private table at Tidewater, the conversation flowing easily despite the undercurrent of emotion. "So," Thomas said, looking between them with knowing eyes, "you two figured it out?" "We're trying," Maya said. "Messily," Dominic added. "I already made one significant mistake today by trying to buy my way to a solution." Thomas laughed. "Sounds about right. But the fact that you recognize it is growth, Dominic. Real growth." "Maya's been a patient teacher," Dominic said, taking her hand across the table. "I hope," Thomas said carefully, "that you'll both be honest with yourselves about what this relationship needs to survive. Long distance requires trust, communication, and flexibility. It requires both people to show up repeatedly, even when it's inconvenient." "I understand," Dominic said, "and I'm committed to trying, to being better, to building a life that has room for more than just work." Thomas smiled. "Then you have my blessing. Not that you need it, but you have it anyway." Later, as they walked Thomas back to his office, he pulled Maya aside while Dominic took a phone call. "Are you happy?" Thomas asked simply. "Terrified and happy," Maya admitted. "Is that normal?" "That's love, sweetheart," Thomas said gently. "It's always terrifying when it's real." Maya spent her last night in Dominic's suite, neither of them sleeping much, talking until dawn about their fears and hopes and the logistics they'd avoided discussing. "I'll come back in 2 weeks," Dominic promised, "just for the weekend, and you can visit San Francisco whenever you want. I'll send the plane." "No private planes," Maya said firmly. "I'll fly commercial." "I need this to be normal, Dominic, not some fairy tale that only exists because of your money." "Okay," Dominic agreed. "Commercial flights, normal. I can do normal." Maya smiled despite the ache in her chest. "You're going to try so hard and fail spectacularly, and I'm going to love you anyway." The words slipped out before she could stop them, and they both froze. "You love me?" Dominic asked quietly. Maya took a breath. "I'm falling in love with you, which is insane because it's been 4 days and we barely know each other and you're about to leave, but yes, I'm falling in love with you." Dominic's expression was unreadable for a long moment. Then, "I'm falling in love with you too, and you're right, it's completely insane. But it's also the most real thing I've felt in years." They kissed, and it tasted like goodbye and promise all at once. Saturday morning came too quickly. Maya stood in the lobby, professional and composed in her work clothes, as Dominic and his team checked out. Jennifer hugged her goodbye. "Take care of him. God knows he needs it." "Take care of yourself," Maya replied. Then it was just Dominic, his team already heading to the waiting SUVs, giving them a moment of privacy. 2 weeks, he said. 2 weeks, Maya confirmed. Call me tonight? Yes. They kissed once more, quick and fierce. Then Dominic walked away. At the door he turned back, and the look on his face was everything, longing and determination and fear and hope. Then he was gone. Maya stood in the empty lobby, her heart feeling too large for her chest, and wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life, or the biggest mistake. Thomas appeared beside her. You okay? Ask me in 2 weeks, Maya said. He'll come back, Thomas said with certainty. You changed something in him, Maya. He won't let that go easily. Maya hoped he was right. But hope, she was learning, was both the bravest and most terrifying thing she'd ever felt. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Maya threw herself into work, taking extra shifts, volunteering for every project, staying busy enough that she couldn't overthink every text message, every phone call, every moment of silence. Because there were silences, hours when Dominic was in meetings, days when the time difference made connection difficult, moments when the distance felt insurmountable. But there were also late-night video calls where they talked until one of them fell asleep on camera. Morning texts that said, "Thinking of you." Photos of sunrises from different coasts with captions like, "Wish you were here." Jennifer became an unexpected ally, sending Maya updates when Dominic was particularly stressed or overwhelmed. "He's trying," she'd text. "Left the office at 7 tonight instead of midnight. Small victories." Thomas watched Maya's emotional roller coaster with quiet concern, offering support without judgment. "Love isn't supposed to be easy," he reminded her one evening when she was particularly frustrated by a missed call. "It's supposed to be worth it. There's a difference." On day 13, Maya's phone rang at 2 in the morning. She fumbled for it, heart-pounding, fearing bad news. "I can't do this," Dominic's voice said without preamble. Maya's stomach dropped. "What? I can't wait until tomorrow. I'm at the airport. I'm coming now. I'll be there by sunrise." Relief and exasperation warred in Maya's chest. "Dominic, you have that board meeting tomorrow morning. Jennifer sent me your schedule." "I rescheduled it," Dominic said. "Delegated it, actually, to Jennifer, who's been telling me for years she's ready for more responsibility. Turns out she's right. She's more than capable of handling it." "You delegated a board meeting?" Maya asked, incredulous. "I delegated 3 board meetings," Dominic corrected, "and a conference call with investors, and a site visit to our Seattle office. Because I realized something, Maya. I can keep building an empire, or I can start building a life. And a life is what I want. With you." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "You're really coming right now?" "My plane takes off in 10 minutes, Dominic confirmed. "I'll be at Seabreeze by 6:30. Meet me on the beach, where we watched the sunrise before." "I'll be there," Maya promised. She couldn't fall back asleep. Instead, she showered, dressed in jeans and a soft sweater, made coffee she couldn't drink. At 6:15, she walked down to the beach, the sky just beginning to lighten, and waited. The sunrise was spectacular, all oranges and pinks and golds, but Maya barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on the path from the resort, watching for Dominic. He appeared at 6:35, slightly rumpled from the flight, carrying his suit jacket over his shoulder, his hair messy in a way that made him look younger and more approachable. When he saw her, his whole face lit up. They met in the middle of the beach, crashing together like waves, holding each other so tightly Maya could barely breathe. "You're here," she murmured against his chest. "I'm here," Dominic confirmed, "and I'm going to keep being here. Maybe not every day, maybe not even every week at first, but I'm choosing this, Maya. I'm choosing us. I'm choosing a life that includes more than just work." Maya pulled back to look at him. "What changed? 13 days ago you left, and now you're talking about completely restructuring your life." Dominic cupped her face in his hands. 13 days of missing you changed everything. 13 days of realizing that every success, every achievement, every milestone meant nothing because I couldn't share it with you. 13 days of understanding that I'd rather have a smaller empire and a real life than rule a kingdom alone. That's very poetic for a tech billionaire, Maya said, tears streaming down her face. I've been reading poetry, Dominic admitted, trying to understand emotions, how to express them. It's been educational. Maya laughed through her tears. You've been reading poetry? Neruda, mostly, Dominic said. Jennifer recommended him. Apparently, I needed help with the romantic gesture department. You flew through the night to watch sunrise with me, Maya pointed out. I think you're doing fine with romantic gestures. They kissed as the sun broke fully over the horizon, painting everything in golden light. Later, over breakfast at the beachside cafe Maya loved, they talked logistics. I've made some decisions, Dominic said. I want to run them by you, but I want you to know I'm not trying to control anything or buy solutions. These are choices I'm making for myself because I want a different life. Okay, Maya said cautiously. First, I'm hiring a CEO for Ashford Tech, Dominic announced. I'll remain chairman of the board, maintain creative control over major decisions, but the day-to-day operations will be someone else's responsibility. Jennifer recommended a candidate who's brilliant and wants the position. Maya's eyes widened. Dominic, that's huge. Are you sure? I'm sure, Dominic said firmly. I built the company. It's successful. It doesn't need me micromanaging every detail anymore. What it needs is fresh leadership and perspective. What I need is time to be human. What's second? Maya asked. I'm buying a house here, Dominic continued. Not at the resort, somewhere nearby. Somewhere I can come regularly, work remotely when needed, and be close to you. I'll still maintain my San Francisco residence for board meetings and necessary business, but this will be my primary home. Maya processed this. You're moving here? To a small coastal town? You? Me? Dominic confirmed. The man who learned to watch sunrises and hike without his phone and make coq au vin. The man who wants to build a life that includes the woman he loves. You love me? Maya asked, even though he'd said it before, needing to hear it again. I love you, Dominic said without hesitation. Completely. Probably since you told me that not everything valuable can be quantified, and I realized you were talking about yourself. Maya reached across the table, taking both his hands. I love you too. And I'm terrified of how fast this is happening, and how much you're changing your life, and what happens if it doesn't work. It'll work, Dominic interrupted, because we'll make it work. Together. Imperfectly, messily, but together. Together, Maya agreed. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of adjustment. Dominic bought a stunning modern house on the cliffs, just 15 minutes from Seabreeze. He hired the CEO, a brilliant woman named Patricia Chen, who took to the role immediately. He established a routine, board meetings once a month in San Francisco, remote work the rest of the time, and entire weekends with no laptop or phone calls. It wasn't easy. Dominic struggled with relinquishing control, with trusting others to maintain his standards, with the guilt of not being available 24/7. He had moments of panic where he questioned everything, moments where the old patterns tried to reassert themselves. But Maya was there, patient and firm, reminding him why he'd made these choices. And Thomas was there too, serving as a mentor in work-life balance, showing Dominic that success didn't require martyrdom. Maya continued working at Seabreeze, but with Thomas's guidance, she began developing a business plan for her boutique hotel. Not funded by Dominic, she'd been adamant about that, but supported by his advice, his connections, his willingness to review her proposals and offer feedback. You're going to be brilliant at this, Dominic said one evening as they reviewed her financial projections on his deck. The ocean stretched out before them. I'm terrified I'll fail, Maya admitted. Then you'll learn and try again, Dominic said. That's what entrepreneurship is, calculated risks and recovered failures. But you have vision, passion, and genuine care for people. That's more valuable than any business degree. Look at you, Maya teased, talking about things being more valuable than credentials and optimization. I had a good teacher, Dominic said, pulling her into his lap. A stubborn, brilliant woman who refused to let me hide behind walls and made me remember I'm human. They spent the evening planning, not just Maya's hotel, but their future, where they'd travel together, what kind of life they wanted to build, how to balance ambition with presence, success with connection. 6 months after Dominic first arrived at Seabreeze, Thomas hosted a small dinner party. Just the three of them, celebrating Maya's 27th birthday on the resort's private terrace overlooking the ocean. "I have gifts," Thomas announced after dessert, producing 2 envelopes. Maya opened hers first. Inside was a check, a substantial check, and a letter. "Thomas," she gasped, looking at the amount. "This is seed money," Thomas interrupted, "for your boutique hotel. Consider it an investment from someone who believes in you completely. I want to be a silent partner, Maya. I want to help you build your dream." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll let me help," Thomas said gently. "Say you'll take the risk and build something beautiful." "Yes," Maya whispered. "Yes, thank you, yes." Dominic opened his envelope next. It contained a single key and a note. "That's the key to the cottage Maya's been living in," Thomas said. "It's yours now, both of yours. I'm transferring ownership. Consider it a very late wedding gift." "We're not married," Dominic said, confused. Thomas smiled. "Not yet, but you will be if you're both as smart as I think you are. Consider it a preemptive wedding gift." Maya and Dominic looked at each other, something unspoken passing between them. Marriage hadn't been discussed, but suddenly it didn't seem premature or impossible. It seemed inevitable. "Thank you, Thomas," Dominic said quietly, "for everything, for being patient with me, for trusting me with Maya, for showing me that there's more to life than quarterly earnings." "You did the hard work," Thomas replied. "I just provided the setting. Now I believe there's champagne, and we should toast to new beginnings." They raised their glasses under the stars, 3 people who'd found family in each other, celebrating the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of lives intertwining. 1 year after Dominic first dismissed Maya as insignificant, they stood on the same beach where he'd learned to watch sunrises. But this time, they weren't alone. Thomas was there, along with Jennifer and the Ashford tech team, along with the Seabreeze staff, along with everyone who'd witnessed their unlikely transformation. Maya wore a simple white dress, elegant and understated, her hair loose and flowing in the ocean breeze. Dominic wore a navy suit with no tie, relaxed and genuinely happy in a way that still surprised people who'd known him during his Ice King era. "When I arrived at this resort," Dominic said during his vows, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "I thought I had everything figured out. I thought success was measured in acquisitions and market share, that efficiency was more important than connection, that walls kept you safe. And then I met a woman who called me on my nonsense, who saw past everything I'd built and recognized the lonely person hiding inside. Maya, you didn't just change my life, you saved it. You reminded me that being human isn't a weakness, it's the whole point. I love you. I choose you. Today and every day." Maya's vows were simpler. "Dominic, you came into my life like a force of nature, cold and intense and seemingly impenetrable. But I saw the person you were trying to hide, the warmth beneath the ice, the capacity for love you'd convinced yourself you didn't have. Loving you has been the scariest and best decision I've ever made. I can't wait to build our life together, messy and imperfect and absolutely real. I love you. I choose you, always." Thomas officiated because of course he did, his voice thick with emotion as he pronounced them married. They kissed as the waves crashed and the sun blazed and their community celebrated around them. At the reception held on Seabreeze's grand terrace, Jennifer gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying. "I've worked with Dominic for 8 years," she said, raising her glass, "and in that time, I watched him build an empire while slowly turning into a machine. He was brilliant but hollow, successful but miserable. Then he came to this resort for a business retreat and met a receptionist who refused to be impressed by his money or intimidated by his coldness. And everything changed. Dominic learned to be human again. He learned to laugh, to rest, to love. So here's to Maya, the woman who melted the Ice King and reminded us all that people matter more than profits. And here's to Dominic, who was brave enough to change. May your marriage be filled with sunrise hikes, cooking disasters, and the courage to keep choosing each other every single day. Later, as they danced under string lights with the ocean as their backdrop, Maya whispered, "Are you happy?" "Deliriously," Dominic replied. "Terrifyingly. Completely." "Good answer," Maya said, laughing. "I mean it," Dominic said, pulling her closer. "A year ago I would have said happiness was closing a deal or beating competitors. Now I know it's this, dancing with my wife, surrounded by people who matter, in a place that taught me how to live. You gave me that, Maya. You gave me everything." "We gave it to each other," Maya corrected. "I needed you too, you know. Needed someone to believe in my dreams, to challenge me to take risks, to show me that love doesn't have to be safe to be real." They swayed together as the night deepened, and somewhere nearby, Thomas watched them with satisfaction. He'd brought them together, yes, but they'd done the hard work, the choosing, the changing, the commitment to building something real. Epilogue. 3 years later. The grand opening of Casa Maya was everything Maya had dreamed it would be. 25 rooms, each uniquely designed, each reflecting her philosophy of personalized luxury and genuine connection. The property sat on a hillside overlooking the ocean, all stone and glass and natural beauty, with gardens that bloomed year-round and a small beach accessible only to guests. Dominic stood beside her as they cut the ribbon, his arm around her waist, his pride evident in every line of his body. He'd consulted on the business plan, introduced her to investors, offered advice when asked, but he'd let her build it herself, respecting her need to succeed on her own terms. "It's perfect," he murmured as guests began to flow through the entrance. "You did it, Maya. You built exactly what you envisioned." "We did it," Maya corrected, resting her head on his shoulder. "You made it possible by showing me that asking for help isn't weakness." Thomas was there too, beaming with pride, already chatting with guests about the property's features. He'd been instrumental in the development, his investment and guidance, making Maya's timeline possible. That evening, after the last guest had checked in and the opening celebration had wound down, Maya and Dominic sat on their private terrace at the cottage they still called home. "I have news," Maya said, her hand moving unconsciously to her still flat stomach. Dominic's eyes followed the gesture, widening with understanding. "Are you pregnant?" Maya confirmed. 8 weeks. "I found out yesterday but wanted to wait until after the opening to tell you." Dominic's face transformed, shock giving way to pure joy. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was made of something precious and fragile. "We're having a baby," he whispered, wonder in his voice. "We're having a baby," Maya confirmed. "Are you ready for this?" "Absolutely not," Dominic said honestly. "I'm terrified. I have no idea how to be a father. I'll probably mess it up 100 different ways." "Then we'll figure it out together," Maya said, echoing the words that had become their mantra. "Imperfectly, messily, but together." "Together," Dominic agreed, his hand covering hers on her stomach. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the ocean catch moonlight, thinking about the future they were building, one choice, one risk, one act of courage at a time. The Ice King had melted completely, transformed by love into someone warm and present, and fully alive. And the receptionist he'd once dismissed as insignificant had become the center of his world, the person who taught him that success without connection was just another form of poverty. They'd both been incomplete before they found each other. Now they were whole, not because they'd fixed each other, but because they'd chosen to grow together, to build something real from the messy, complicated, beautiful truth of who they actually were. And that, Maya thought, as Dominic kissed her forehead and talked excitedly about nursery designs and parenting books, was worth every terrifying moment of risk. Love wasn't safe. It wasn't predictable. It couldn't be optimized or controlled. But it was everything, and everything she'd learned was exactly enough.